Hey everybody, Matt Maynard here. I got another helpful video that I think a lot of you parents will be very interested in hearing more about, which is the quality of your child's sleep. Now, a lot of us can all agree kids today really don't get a lot of sleep. They really don't get enough of sleep. And ultimately, that can be a large part of why your child may be having some of the mental health symptoms that most people would see somebody like me or go see a mental health professional for. They might have kids that get diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, potential focus issues, being able to maintain focus in class, kids actually being able to stay awake in class, motivation to complete schoolwork, being thorough with their schoolwork, and quite honestly, a lot of emotional regulation and a lot of emotional breakdowns that a lot of the kids are having can actually be symptoms and not necessarily core problems. And so one of the things that I assess for, that some other mental health professionals, I think very few actually assess for, are the potential for an underlying sleep disorder. And I'm going to go over a few today. That way you can start to maybe talk to your pediatrician, your primary care, or maybe even seek out a local sleep specialist near you to actually see if there's a potential for your child to have an underlying sleep disorder. I'm not trained in this, but I do have a little bit of information, and it may be helpful for you to be able to go and garner more from somebody that has a lot more knowledge than I do. But for example, some of the sleep disorders that I have been able to kind of identify and recognize in a lot of the clients that I work with are sleep apnea, right? Open mouth breathing, snoring, sleepwalking, sleep talking. If a child may have sleep apnea, they may stop breathing, and you may be able to hear this. Or you'll be able to see that your child has moved around a ton in their bed. They've spun around, they've fallen off the bed, their covers are all over the place. And more often than not, the child's also going to really report feeling tired, and they're also going to look very tired throughout the day. Some kids may also present the opposite. They're going to be really hyperactive. They're going to be very emotionally all over the place. They're going to be like a pinball machine, a pinball in a pinball machine, essentially. So don't necessarily assume that because your kid's wired, there's no way they're exhausted. Body can react very differently for different kids. So that does not rule out that there could not be an underlying sleep disorder. So sleep apnea is one of them. And more often than not, what sleep specialists or doctors will recommend is having tonsils and adenoids taken out to remove the obstruction of the child's airway. That's a possible one. That's something that obviously you can do more research on. The other one is what we call POTS, which is an acronym for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And essentially what that is that your blood pressure and your heart rate are plummeting when you go from a sitting or laying position to a standing position. And what's happening is your kid is going to get kind of fuzzy gray kind of vision. They're also not going to really sleep well if they have POTS. They're going to feel really lethargic, really tired, because their heart rate and their blood pressure are pretty low. So that's something that ultimately is one that's really overlooked, and that's something that can be done either through your pediatrician or a sleep specialist as well. They'll usually assess for that at the intake. And then more on the rarer side is narcolepsy. And that is something that's treated more with medication and something that really needs to be assessed through a sleep study to really identify and assess if that's really what's going on there. Ultimately, those three sleep disorders are the main ones that I see. And then the other one, there's one more that I almost forgot about, which is restless leg syndrome, where a kid will have twitching, and you really won't be able to see this. Some parents say they can. They'll see their kids move around a lot or they twitch. That's actually interrupting the REM period in which the child's sleeping, and that ultimately can really disrupt their ability to get really quality sleep. Even if they get a large quantity of sleep, it's really the quality of sleep that's really the thing that you want to look out for, and that I'm more concerned about, because that's going to have a profound impact on their physiological development and their cognitive and emotional development. And so these are things that you should definitely talk to your pediatrician about. You should definitely seek out a sleep specialist and potentially get a sleep study in order to identify if these are something that your child may be experiencing, because ultimately, if you don't address these, if you don't actually look at this and you don't actually get this under control, no parenting system, nothing, no amount of parenting book, parenting strategies, parenting system, including mine, emotionally strategic parenting, is going to work unless you actually get these assessed. And I've had plenty of parents that I've worked with where we start this process alongside doing emotionally strategic parenting, and once we get the sleep under control and we start doing some of the behavioral modifications, change is inevitable. and it's really positive. I actually recently had a parent on New Year's Eve recollect that this year one of the things they were remembering is the fact that I actually assessed and found this in their son, who was really for years struggling and suffering and creating chaos within their family. And so I really hope that this video is helpful for you. And if you do know anybody that would actually benefit from hearing this, please feel free to share it along. And please also join and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Matthew Maynard LMFT. Thanks a ton, and I hope you have a great day.